Anyway, you guys work it out yourself. Someone who knows all about these topics and probably more than what he'd like to share with us in the morning so he doesn't depress us too much is the CEO of the Motor Trades Association, Mr. Peter Fitzpatrick. He joins us this morning to talk about telematics, intelligent traffic management services embraced all around the world, not quite so in Australia. We'll find out why now. Good morning, Peter Fitzpatrick.
Good morning, Jason. Morning, Anita. How are you?
Very, very well. Sorry about the early start to the day today. Not quite so cold this morning.
No, I've already been up quite early. The media have been buzzing around on fuel prices, so
yes, we saw you.
They start about 6
night.
o'clock. So
yeah, you big show off. We saw you. Channel 9, Channel 10, everywhere he is. But do we want to talk about that quite quickly before we get into today's topic?
Look, we've just got a fuel cycle, and the international price of oil is at record highs, $117 a barrel. They just can't keep up with the demand, and the prices will only go higher because the US is technically in recession, and it'll come out of that probably sometime this year. So if they get back to a full economy, sort of moving on with higher growth rates, and you've got China and India, prices will only go up.
Oh, okay. Like I said, we'll probably...
Sorry, pressing this time of morning.
I'm going to get my car converted to LPG before the end of the year, I promise.
There's a lot of cars on the road. People are just, I mean, instead of catching public transport and everything, people are still buying cars, which is causing traffic congestion.
It does distress me when you're driving on the freeway in the morning. Yes. Everyone's bumper to bumper and there's one person in every car. But telematics, smart traffic control systems, they're taking a hold around the world to help prevent some of the problems of congestion and delays due to accidents and so forth. Can you tell us a bit about where they came from, or where they originated from, and why aren't we up to date?
Yeah, well, we've had them for a number of years. In Europe, about 50 million cars have got telematics. In the USA, there's about 20% of their fleets equipped. Australia's only got about 1% of its car with telematics, and they are on-board information systems that normally will come up on your satellite navigation system, but you can buy purpose-built ones as well. The problem we've had in Australia, we haven't got a stable and common interactive platform that you need to broadcast this information on. And we've got to get that sorted out, and that is being progressively sorted out now. And I think in Sydney and Brisbane they're now offering a service. Perth, maybe next year we might start seeing telematics being used in a more common way.
Sorry, go
Who runs it? Once the infrastructure's in place, once the people have the electronics in their vehicle, who's actually in charge of providing the information that comes to the onboard computers?
Private enterprise companies do it, and they do it very well. I've got it in the car I'm driving at the moment. It's in a rudimentary form, but if you lock your keys in the boot, you just call up the assist company, and they can then unlock the car remotely. They can stop the car remotely. They can track where the vehicle is at any time if it's stolen. So they do, and it's very good for, if you have an emergency or something like that. You just push a little button up on the windscreen or up on the rear vision mirror, and you're in direct contact with somebody. So it's a good safety measure as well. You have young women driving around at night, because they've got night jobs or whatever, and if they do find themselves in a difficult situation, telematics can also be there to assist them under those circumstances as well.
Right, okay, because what I was going to ask before you actually answered my question
before that's very good, Anita. I'm a mind reader as well.
People like myself who've never, yeah, I know, you're a mind reader, who haven't heard of telematics, what does it actually do? Do you think, because we've got such a small amount of telematics in Australia, if any, is that what is causing such massive congestions on the road?
Well, the cause of congestion is there's just too many cars on too many narrow and old streets in many cases, and quite often we have very good freeways that just dump people into small suburban or city streets. The problem that we have, though, there's no management of that process at the moment at all. So if you were to have in your car a system that would give you the 3 routes as the way to get yourself to work or to get yourself to an appointment, and it could tell you what the congestion was on each of those routes, and it does that by having probe cars out there on the road monitoring it. They have observation by experts who are obviously monitoring it by remote control. And they also use the information systems in traffic lights, and they coordinate those 3 bits of information, and so they can then provide up-to-date and real live information as what's happening on any route that you choose to use to get from one point to the other.
Will it ever result in the situation, again, I'm playing devil's advocate, I reckon that's a great idea, and the hold and assist, which is what you're talking about in your car, I think is a fantastic device, and from a safety point of view as well as the convenience. Would you see there be a possibility of a situation where, say, for example, there's a crash on Tonkin Highway, so everyone who's got the telematics goes, don't go Tonkin Highway, so they all go somewhere else? Is there potential problems there for there to be too much of people going in one direction or the other, or is the whole idea just to sort of
Well, I guess the telematics would have to manage the next process after that. In other words, if everyone suddenly diverted to one direction, they'd have to sort of say, well, don't go there because everyone else has gone there. There are other ways, or you might delay your journey if you can. There's a whole range of options. It's very good for trucking companies. See, there's something like 1.5 billion tonnes of freight moved around on our roads each year. We've got 800,000 kilometres of roads. So you've got trucks travelling from point A to point B. For example, Brisbane to Sydney, there are 3 routes you can use to get there, 3 highway routes you can go via. If there's a major problem with a major accident or a bushfire or something on one route, the trucking company can alert the driver, or the telematics that put on board the truck can alert the driver. So you can save millions of dollars each year. They estimate in Sydney alone, for example, it's something like $18 billion a year cost to the community just in traffic congestion.
So in downtime sort of thing?
In downtime with road transport, with people's time being wasted in cars and so on. So if it's 18 billion in Sydney, you could probably do a quick pro rata and say it's probably $5 or $6 billion a year that it costs the Western Australian community for people and freight and other services, people providing services sitting around in traffic.
So why now? Like, why hasn't something been done earlier?
Well, it's like a lot of these things. Australia sometimes just lags. Sometimes we lead the world. This is one of those instances where we lag the world. We are way behind Europe. United States are well into this now. General Motors in the United States has said every car from the beginning of this year is going to be equipped with telematics, so they're putting it on every car. I don't know the exact form of that, but sometimes it can be just the more rudimentary form, which enables you to use the satellite locking, unlocking and those sorts of things. But in their true form in Europe, you can actually book a hotel room ahead. You can reserve a parking space ahead. So there's a range of things that can be done. Once you've got stuff on board, you can then use it virtually as an online communication system for you to communicate with the whole world.
Everything to do with your transport needs.
Yes.
So it's online in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane?
Yes, it's online in all those 3 places now. In Perth, there are systems that individual manufacturers provide, but there's no common system that if you decided tomorrow you're going to put a sat-nav system in your car and you wanted to put in telematics on there, there's no platform here at the moment for a private provider to do that.
And you mentioned that at the start of the interview. It seems like part of the problem is all the manufacturers not cooperating. So we basically need them to all get together and say, look, there's a standard platform, all make your own products, let the consumer choose, but have one system that is compatible across the board.
There's probably a bit of competition going on here, that the manufacturers are probably guarding a bit of their intellectual property on this, and then there are private providers out there who want to get involved. And the trucking companies in particular are really using this. And it's even helpful for government because people like the roads departments around the nation can actually track from this, the information they get from it, where trucks are going and what sort of loads they're carrying and so on. So there's there are wider implications for the whole thing. It's just a very, very smart way for us to be able to manage traffic flows. And the bigger populations, more freeways, people dumping off those freeways into narrow roads, we're going to have more and more problems. And I find last night I was going to a meeting which would normally take me 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get there. It took me nearly half an hour.
Yeah.
And it's just that traffic was all just banked up, and for no apparent reason. There might have been some accident up ahead, certainly nothing that I could see.
I can think of a lot of benefits there, Pete, like with efficiency, environmentally conscious because obviously you're burning less fuel, you've got to get less road rage and people stressing out at each other on the roads.
Exactly.
The cost of goods should really come down a little bit if the transport system is more efficient. Yep. And a safer, less stressful environment on the road. It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, all of those advantages are there. And as I said, I don't know how many billion, if you totaled up around Australia, you're probably talking $50 or $60 billion in savings just by having these systems made available in motor vehicles and trucks and other forms of transport.
We should have a good look at it. And with people like Peter Fitzpatrick, keeping an eye on our Motor Trades Association in Western Australia, we're on the right track. Talk to your vehicle manufacturer. Let them know at the car yard when you're looking at your next car. It's the sort of thing you'd like to have. And we'll piece it all together. Sounds like good common sense. Pete, thanks for opening our eyes yet again. We need to go to a quick break, which we're now going to do. When we come back, we'll have another guest for you.
Bread making.
Bread making on Wake Up WA.